Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for this Friday edition video, where today I'm going to be featuring the Tier 9 Soviet tech tree heavy cruiser, the Riga, as I also now have the Petropavlovsk, but today's focus is going to be on Riga. Now, I need to make an opening commentary about this Friday highlight, as we feature this ship, and tomorrow we'll do an upgrade and commander build video on the ship. This video is going to show you the strengths of the Riga, and it's also going to show you the weaknesses of the Riga. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, you're not going to be able to see her AA in action because she has relatively weak AA damage output. But you're going to see in terms of what I liked how it was kind of worded in the WoW's wiki on the ship, her battle performance. Riga excels best mid to close range, which is an issue when you're dealing with subs and you're dealing with aircraft carriers, but that's where she really shines. And her weakness in terms of battle performance is when we talk about kiting and having to disengage. Okay, so this video is not about Flimsy has an amazing game, this ship is crazy, look at all the kills, look at all the damage he got. It's focuses in on the strengths and the weaknesses of this ship. And I think this video does a pretty good job showing both. For me, when I do these Friday highlights, it's not always about showing like, wow, this ship is crazy good, or this ship is just complete garbage, but it's trying to find those videos that really showcase the ship quite well in terms of strengths and weaknesses, even if the battle isn't amazing, okay? So that's basically what you're gonna see here with the Tier 9 Soviet heavy cruiser, the Riga. And one of the things I really want to hit on in this video today is something that a lot of the other Tier 9 cruisers in this game cannot do what Riga does. And essentially that's going to be her ability to tank damage, which you are going to see. The amount of damage we tank in this game is going to be quite high. And just a lot of other Tier 9 cruisers are going to really struggle. Now there's some that can, maybe, but it really depends on your positioning, so on and so forth. So what makes Riga so unique? Well, one, the ship never existed. So Riga was a project cruiser that ultimately kind of led to the development of the battle cruiser, heavy cruiser, the Stalingrad, as our Missouri is going to be overextending here, and you're going to see how that goes as he pushes into two brawling secondary ships. But Riga is a project heavy cruiser. She has even more armor than her, a greater armor scheme than her Tier 8 counterpart. So it is a pretty natural progression up the line in terms of going from Tier 8 to Tier 9 tech tree cruiser in the game. What makes her shine, particularly besides her armor scheme that she has, is that she has really amazing guns. These are 220 millimeter. She has 9 in total. 220 millimeter guns, where the AP is a lot better than the high explosive. She doesn't have that same like HE output DPM performance as other Tier 9 cruisers, but her AP is really solid between the shell damage that the AP does, which is, I'm just checking here, 5,750 each. And then that you have flat shell ballistics and pretty good shell velocity, 965 meters a second. So it doesn't take very long for these guns to get onto target. Now, as you've seen, our Missouri died. This is going to put a lot of pressure on our cap, and I'm pinging because there is, I believe it's a cruiser that's up there. So it's going to be difficult for us to hold this cap with how things are set, and I think we have a Harugamo over on the 8 line, and then I can't remember who the other cruiser player who's there in E8. So what Riga does really well is being able to control, as if she's a radar cruiser, you get the 12-kilometer radar, and you get a 5-kilometer hydro in addition to your repair parties and standard damage control parties. But she's really good. Oh yeah, as a Prince Ruprecht, right? So there's a lot of brawling ships over here, okay? Is holding key objectives as best as she can. Now here we're in a very not favorable situation because we're dealing with Mecklenburg, tanky German battleship with torpedoes, a Napoli, tanky heavy Italian cruiser with torpedoes, Prinz Ruprecht, not as tanky, but a battle cruiser that has a really amazing and deep secondary DPM performance at tier 9, and also has torpedoes. And we're also dealing with a Conde that also has a French super ship with torpedoes and just really good damage output. So this is going to put us in a sense where now we're going to have to go into this kiting role with Riga, which isn't her strength. So what is our goal here now that we have harping to play accordingly? Well, it's to try to consume as much of the enemy team's time up here on the north end of the cap so that our team can hopefully win a flank and push through. That's really the only way that we're going to be able to win. A lot of the battles here, I think this map is Sea of Fortune. Maybe I got that wrong. But a lot of the battles are won here on this map depending on whoever wins the flank, particularly with C, because then they just come down and you have so much island coverage on the 6-7 line that makes it difficult. If like our team wins A, they have to push up through that, and there can be a lot of the cruisers can be utilizing the concealment provided by those islands on the 6-7 line there towards the middle of the map on the northeast side of Bravo Cap. So that just makes it really difficult, okay? So what we're going to do is, you can see we've got 3 defended ribbons. We're trying to reset when we can. You know, granted, we don't have, our shell arcs are flat. We can't just really shoot over the island, so we're going to have to rely on our Edgar and also our Hurugamo to be able to get damage off here. And we have a difficult situation. I think it's the enemy Kitakami that's actually in our spawn. So that is not good. So I'm going to communicate in chat, letting the team know, hey, we got BBs pushing down the 10 line. And that's another reason why we didn't want to sit there bow in on the D9 line, because between Mecklenburg and Prinz Ruprecht DPM, the secondary DPM punishing us, we would eventually evaporate. We can't take that much damage over time. Now, I really need to be shifting my focus here to Kitakami, but just as I noticed him, our Hurugamo takes him out. So that's great. We are going to go ahead and get our torpedoes going. And I do want to try to stay on this 9-10 line so I can get a little bit of a crossfire going on here. Now, unfortunately for our Edgar, he's having to deal with a bow on Napoli, which makes it a little more difficult for his guns to get decent damage off. And he shows a little bit too much side, and Napoli is going to punish him for that. Now, here we use our Russian 12-kilometer radar, and our goal is that, yes, we want to punish the broadside of Napoli. That's what these 228 millimeter AP gun AP shells do so well, as we get a 14K salvo in there. And I was hoping for more there, but it's just 4 pins, so a little disheartening. But we want to try to just be this pain for the enemy team. You can actually see they didn't even flip C. Perhaps Napoli will go back and flip C, but the Mecklenburg and Prinz Ruprecht have been so focused on me that they're like, oh, we're going to keep chasing Flimsy. And that's what Riga does so well, in tanking a lot of damage and being able to take a lot of focus fire from the enemy team. Now, if we had stayed there at D9, we would have already been dead at this point, just trying to stay balanced. We were forced into this kiting role, but even though that's not where the battle performance of the Riga shines, with our good armor scheme, we're an immense pain to deal with, and we're trying to serve as this distraction to, you know, we've taken a tier 10 and a tier 9 battleship basically out of the battle, and they're just really focused on, I don't know what that salvo was that, focused on us, giving our team more time to respond and flipping A, and then moving up to Bravo. Now, let me go ahead and talk more about the strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons of the ship that are listed in the WoW's wiki. Good HP pull. You have an icebreaker bow, an armored midsection, and a 35mm deck. We'll look at that tomorrow in the upgrade commander build video, looking at her armor. Excellent AP penetration. You have very slightly improved ricochet angles. You have unique dispersion curve that improves accuracy at close to mid ranges. It's pretty standard for the Russian ships that they operate in such ways. Majority of them speaking, with the battleships and cruisers. You have a high shell velocity, as I pointed out, over 960 meters a second, and you have your 12 kilometer surveillance radar. The cons is that you are a large target, so you do not have the best concealment for a tier 9 cruiser here in the game. If you do build into concealment between your commander and also on the upgrades, you're looking at a base conceal of 12.5 kilometers, 14.5 kilometers when you are on fire. So it's not great, nor is it like absolutely terrible. But for a tier 9 cruiser here in the game, I mean, there's a lot of other cruisers. You know, if you can compare to Buffalo, I think Buffalo's like maybe 10.8 or something like that. You know, so a bit better there. But because of your greater armor scheme and other strengths like the 12 kilometer radar, as an example, there are going to be things that are going to take away, and one of those costs is just the concealment on this ship. You have a vulnerable citadel, so you have to be mindful of your broadside. You can absolutely get punished if you are showing broadside, which it goes pretty much for about most ships in the game, not all, but most. You have a poor high explosive damage output. Actually, right now in this battle, we haven't even set one fire, even though we have been using HE at various points in the game. You have a slow main battery traverse speed. You have no torpedoes, a very low flak count in your AA, a massive turning radius and slow rudder shift. Your worse dispersion than other cruisers past 14 kilometers, and surveillance radar has a very short duration. If we do decide to build in, like right now, if we haven't built into radar at all, it's just a 15-second action time on this radar. But you know, if we were to take, for example, the surveillance radar modification in slot 2, that would bump us up to having an 18-second action time. And then we could do like a consumables enhancements as an example, and that would get us up to 19.8. So there's a few little things we can do to help out with buffing up the radar time, but you should only expect to realistically only get a few salvos off with this ship before the enemy target goes dark. So, you know, if you have a reload time of 12.3 seconds, and that's with taking the main battery mod 3 in the 6th slot, and then let's say you got top grade gunner or you have adrenaline rush, of course you can get that lower, but just with just the 6th slot of the main battery mod 3, then you're looking at 12.32 second reload time. So 2 salvos is realistically what you should be looking at to get off on an enemy target. So as we push back up here, we do take out an AA gun for non-pins. And of course, that would have just been a lot better for us to have shot AP there at the Mecklenburg. So this video, or this battle when I was playing it, it was really teaching me the lesson that this HE is just not really incredible. It even has low damage value, which I need to check on that. Let me look here. It was, yeah, 3050. So really it's the armor piercing is what you should typically always be firing, unless, you know, hey, that battleship, maybe he's not broadside to me and he just DCP'd a fire. Let's see if we can get a permafire on him. Or there's a destroyer or submarine we want to use high explosive on. Otherwise, you should really just be focusing on the armor piercing because it's just that good here in World of Warships. But as the battles progressed, you kind of seen that we've had some teammates die coming up north out of A as we get our double fire there, actually. And so we're still being a pain in the side of the enemy team here. Our Rigmo's just having a really good game as he just picks up the Kraken Unleashed there as we give him a wells done. So I thought, yeah, the Prince Ruprecht, yeah, he DCP'd our double fire. So I let our team know. I always try to do that in case we can get a permafire going, because he still has full health as our friendly Kitakami is charging back up in the sea because the battleships, I think it was the battleships, maybe it was Napoli, they did eventually manage to flip that cap as we had that Prince Ruprecht all the way down over on the 10 line, but then he's since disengaged. And you can see here kind of the strength in the positioning of these islands as I was pointing out here on the 6-7 line. So now that the Prince Ruprecht looks like he's going to make the push, our Hugamo has wisely backed off. And we're going to go ahead and pop the radar and find out what exactly Ruprecht is up to. And then we're going to be setting up, again, unfortunately, into a kiting role. The ship doesn't... it's just, you could, maybe perhaps as an argument made, or it can just stay bow in, tank the secondaries. But the challenge becomes, can our team help us before something like Prince Ruprecht runs up on us and gets the torpedoes away? But with us kiting here, we are going to be able to utilize all 9 of our guns, not just our 2 forward turrets. So there's an example of the HE, kind of 4 pins and 4 non-pins, so a little bit frustrating there. But as the Prince Ruprecht goes broadside, we're going to be aiming just up underneath those front guns that ultimately lands midsection of the ship. And so we're just going to get more reliable pin damage here, where our high explosives just aren't going to be able to, as our Huiguma goes down. And if you've noticed, we're ending this game with 2.5 million potential damage, and we could actually still take more. I mean, we have our last heals ticking there, but we still had a lot of hit points left there. So we are going to get the Dreadnought here with Riga. As the point of this video is just really showcasing that this tier 9 cruiser can do what a lot of other tier 9 cruisers can't, particularly when it comes to tanking, just because of her armor scheme, which is really one of her strengths here. So only almost 80,000 damage with no kills, a couple destroyed, but we did the team play in distracting those enemy battleships like that Prince Ruprecht and that Mecklenburg out on a 10 line. So objectively as a team play, it was a really good game. Statistically wise speaking, it's not an amazing game, but we played wisely with our position. So actually, potential damage is 2.6 million because I think there's still some secondaries coming in on us from the enemy Prince Ruprecht. But we only engaged in 4 enemy ships total in this battle. And here you can see with the premium account where we landed on, as this was when I was grinding for the Petropavlovsk. So maybe in a few weeks we will be featuring Petropavlovsk. I need to play a little more, but Petropavlovsk is like, it's a really good ship. And I think many of you know that without me saying it, even though I'm pretty late to the game in terms of this. This video is actually from December, man. I have been sitting on some videos. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. Tomorrow we're doing an upgrade commander build video here on the Riga. And maybe I can give a little more of my thoughts just in general on the ship, since I've played it more even beyond this battle here. So until next time, take care.